Hello and welcome to today's historic best of 3 deck tech and gameplay video on Deathtouch Aggro. Deathtouch Aggro is basically an aggro deck that is centered around a theme, or in this case more of a mechanic, being Deathtouch itself, with the namesake card being Fynn the Fangbearer. 2 mana, 1/3 Deathtoucher, normally would be limited fodder and that's about it. But Fynn's second ability, when a creature you control with Deathtouch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. And if a player has 10 or more poison counters, they lose the game. So, basically the deck with Fynn wants to run a lot of Deathtouch creatures and connect early and often, giving them poison counters. And if you, like it says, if they get 10 poison counters, they immediately lose the game. So if you play your cards right, your opponent effectively starts with only 10 life. Now, in order to make Fynn work, we need a good amount of other creatures with Deathtouch. We also make use of the only other practical Deathtouch payoff that it can really work in this deck, which is Hooded Blightfang. 3 mana 1/4 Deathtouch that whenever a creature you control with Deathtouch attacks, you basically drain each opponent for 1. And it also gives you the ability to make Deathtouch creatures actually Deathtouch opposing planeswalkers when normally they do not. Deathtouch only usually applies to creatures, so that little second line of text is very nice. First, the actual first line of text of draining your opponent for 1 when you attack is nice to sort of control your life total into battle against other aggro decks, and just is generally kind of good for more reach. If you don't have a Fynn, sometimes your second little win con can be the Blightfang's drain effect. In addition to that, we just run some, or as good of Deathtouch creatures as we can, running 3 Chevills as just a kind of generically good, also 2 mana 1/3 Deathtoucher, can sometimes get you some card draw and some life gain with its bounty counter mechanic. We also run the best 1-drop Deathtouches that are practically available in the format. In Narnam Renegade is a 1 mana 1/2 Deathtoucher, and if Revolt is triggered, it enters as a 2/3 Deathtoucher. Again, the best stats on a Deathtoucher that you can get in a vacuum in the format. The Fang of Shigeki is the least good Deathtoucher that we have available. It's one of those, there's a whole load of these green 1 mana 1/1 Deathtouchers that you can run. While it does make the deck budget friendly, this is easily the weakest one, and you will see is often a card that will get cut. Vampire of the Dire Moon is actually not too terrible. Again, a 1 mana 1/1 Deathtouch, but also have lifelink. Again, we run shocks and cards like Thoughtseizes and Shocklands, so we enjoy little bits of life gain here and there. And it can also just be useful against opposing aggro matchups. And probably the second best, the Foulmire Knight and the Vampire of the Dire Moon are kind of tied for second. The Foulmire Knight, the creature by itself, is pretty boring. Just a 1 mana 1/1 Deathtouch. Would normally be on par with the Fang, but the adventure of Profane Insight does let us get a little bit of extra card draw, and being a very low to the ground aggro deck, we'll take card draw where we can get it. And it's fine as a body. It's a 1 mana Deathtoucher, where the ideal draw is a 1 mana Deathtoucher into Fynn in your opening hand is great. That's like the perfect one where you can start applying poison counters immediately. That's the base kind of game plan of the deck. We have some other just generic bits of good cards. Assassin's Trophy as a panic removal if we need to get rid of something that's slowing our board down. We don't mind giving our opponent the land, since being a Fynn aggro deck, we're trying to kill them very early on, to where hopefully they're not going to be able to make a whole lot of use of this additional mana. Thoughtseize as general hand disruption and to help inform our plays, as well as just generically being a good card. Running 2 Infuse with Vitality. This card is far more important than you would think it would be. It is a red and a green, like it says, for an instant that basically says if until the end of the turn target creature gains Deathtouch, not really that relevant to this deck, but the important part is when this creature dies, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. We are an aggro combo deck, basically. And if you don't have really one of the two Deathtouch payoff cards, either Fynn himself or the Hooded Blightfang, if you cannot keep these creatures on the board, you are just playing a very budget, arguably not that great aggro deck. So you need either the Blightfang or Fynn to connect and stay on the board in order to get our hodgepodge of weird Deathtouch cards to be anywhere close to good. And Infuse with Vitality gives you that, or gives you an additional layer of security. Yes, sometimes your vanishing verses of the world will just dumpster you, and there's nothing you can do about that. But more often than not, an opponent will try to destroy them. It's also nice that sometimes an Infuse with Vitality can be used as a combat trick to sort of make your opponent second guess themselves when they want to block or attack. And I have had the 2 life gained from Infuse with Vitality matter far, far more than you would think. I try not to take this long on these videos, but Infuse with Vitality is just that important. The card may seem like some generic limited filler, but in this deck I would argue it's kind of pivotal, or some other form of protection for your combo pieces. The last kind of generic good card is Toski, Bearer of Secrets. We've run this card in several decks before. It's just a nice little curve topper, indestructible itself, and hey, sometimes you can give a Deathtouch with things like the Infuse, again, to add to your game plan. It can't be countered, which is nice, but not the most relevant, as your mono blue tempos of the world has sort of died out. But really what this is for in this deck is the whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This is our most reliable way of card draw. This is where we get most of our card draw from the deck, where the second most are Chevill and the Foulmire Knight. These are our card draw engine to try and get this deck to work a little bit better. Lands, relatively self-explanatory. Basics here and there. Some of the channel lands for Boseiju as just a generically good card. Some creature lands to help prevent flooding. A castle for additional card draw. We only only run because we only run one. Why is that so hard? Because we don't run that many swamps, so it's hard to get this thing to come into play on curve and untapped, but it's good enough that we still run it regardless. The low-key hero of this deck in the land base is the Karn's Bastion. I would argue this is almost required for this deck to work, since it's a land that allows you, like it says, to proliferate and put additional counters on anything that has counters. And poison counters are in fact counters that your opponent gets. So, if in the late game your game plan is stalled out and you can't really take good trades, they've managed to develop a good board of blockers and have lots of interaction, but they happen to have already gotten a poison counter from earlier, Karn's Bastion gives you a way to turn a otherwise stalled board state, and therefore what would normally be a loss. This gives you an out to turn those poison counters eventually, turn after turn, slowly adding on to the poison until they die. Since poison counters have this effect already, the 10 or more and you lose the game, that's intrinsic to poison counters, not Fynn. So Fynn can be destroyed, and your opponent can still have poison counters and still get to 10 and still lose the game. That is an intrinsic fact, or an intrinsic nature to poison counters themselves. So you don't have to have Fynn on the field for the poison counters to still kill your opponent. And again, this is where Karn's Bastion comes in. Late game, when you stall out and you can't really, make a whole lot of combat happen, or you're out of Fynns, but your opponent has a couple of them. The Karn's Bastion allows you to turn that normally losing situation into a potential win if an opponent can't answer a non-basic land. Admittedly, Field of Ruins and the occasional Stone Rain do exist, but those are very, very rare. So rare that it's still worth running the card. And that is the base deck. Sideboard, pretty self-explanatory. Grafdigger's Cages for Reanimators, and really more so Collected Company decks. Ooze for Graveyard decks, and it can be a little bit of a life game tool in aggro matchups. and like your Izzet Phoenixes of the world to get rid of Delirium and such, and the Phoenix themselves. Ritual of Soot if you need a panic against fellow aggro decks, or like your elves or sometimes merfolk that can go wider than you can. Sometimes you need the panic button of a Ritual of Soot. Necromentia for the occasional combo floating around. This usually names like a Heliod or the Scurry Oak in that really annoying combo. Or it can name... It's also future-proofing for other potentially really annoying cards that are pivotal to your opponent's game plan. Necromentia is just a, hey, I choose this card, bye-bye that card. Broken Wings has actually been far more important than you would think. There are a load of flyers running around the format, and Broken Wings allows you to deal with flyers and also have some artifact and enchantment hate if you need to bring them in. For instance, the flyers are loads of, again, your Arc-like Phoenixes, or any of the cards in Arc-like Phoenix. Dragon's Rage Channeler when Delirium is enabled, or the Fairy Dragon 2 mana 1/1 from Ikoria, Sprite Dragon, whatever that's called. Or the Stormwing Entity. Those are great big flyers. We also have blue-white, affinity or artifact decks. Broken Wings kind of works with that. So this is a card that would seem really, really weird, but it's honestly fantastic for the flexibility it has. It's not a all-star card, but it's more that it's just generically really, really good. Reclamation Sage, pretty obvious answer to enchantments and artifacts. Again, if your opponent's running your blue-white affinities or your enchantresses of the world, Rec Sage, and even Broken Wings can help deal with that. Running 2 Carnage Tyrant for the occasional blue-white control or something control, or the Stifle, the Stifle decks that are blue-white control that run those Lotus Field combos. Anything that likes to run a lot of counter spells, or opponents that run a lot of single target removal. Carnage Tyrant is a great answer. It's just a great big green beater that can close out the game. That is the very long-winded deck tech for Deathtouch aggro. We'll go now into game number 1. Game number 1 with our Deathtouch aggro list. Again, we go first because we have a brain. 3 lands. This isn't great because there's not like a Fynn in our opening hand, but it's good enough that we're not gonna complain too much. We'll probably Vampire of the Dire Moon on 1. If we draw nothing, we might just Thoughtseize and Fang next turn to see what we're going up against. Playing some our opponent Cleric class. Probably some Soul Sisters life gain thing. So again, we'll go with our initial plan. And that is basically what's happening. World Tree on 2. Soul Warden's annoying, but not impossible to deal with. Honestly, the Righteous Valkyrie is kind of the most annoying card in their hand and can quickly get the game out of my ability to kind of win. Play the Fang, just generally trying to apply some pressure. This is honestly not the greatest, what's the word? It's not the greatest opener, but it's not like so awful that it's bad. We do have the Boseiju to answer the Cleric class if we really want to. I don't think their Dawn of Hope is going to be that relevant. But I guess we're just kind of going to see. So they're green. I'm assuming they're green-white. And then just running World Tree for fixing, maybe? Is it gods, not demigods, so that doesn't work. Alright. Anywho, play another Vampire of the Dire Moon. Go ahead and keep the Boseiju mana open. I'd be very surprised if it takes that trade. And that is correct, you honestly should not. Especially in a deck like his, or theirs. Let's not be rude. Now, Heliod from our opponent. It's not great. Drawing a lot of lands, but not a whole lot else. I guess we just keep applying pressure. It's not fantastic. Next turn they're going to really start to be able to apply some pressure here. It's a Dawn of Hope. They can always Heliod and give their Soul Warden lifelink. another cleric class. I think we're gonna Boseiju away one of their cleric classes, so their Heliod can't attack. Does give them a land, but they've basically flooded out now. Hang on. It's not tapped, though. That's a little bad, but we kind of needed to do that. Yeah, we kind of needed to do that to save the 5 damage that Heliod would have thrown at our face. It's not going fantastically. Yeah, it's not going great. We'll go ahead and Foulmire Knight now. That's something. That's something, honestly. It's not great. I don't like giving them more triggers. But they sort of can't really freely attack him. It's gonna really suck playing the Blightfang next turn. Oh, God. Yeah, it's really not that good. Really bad, honestly. Okay, since I don't think at this rate we can win, or it looks very sketchy, I suppose we can start thinking about sideboarding plans. Oh, that's fucking frustrating. Yeah, let it through. Annoying. I guess we can... I guess we can bring in Ritual of Soot. Play more controlling, I guess. I think I weirdly need to just start hitting them, because we're probably going to lose anyway. I gotta do what I can. If I had Fynn, I could more reliably force them to trade. But I do not, so we're in a little bit of a weird spot. Because we basically lose now, no matter what we do, because they've gotten their goofy shit. So it's probably going to be Ritual of Soot. Maybe Necromentia, just naming a Heliod. As that card is, like, particularly annoying. I guess, ooh, that's a good question. So I guess we can Assassin's Trophy... What away? Guess we can get rid of Daxos. It also gets rid of their devotion for Heliod as well. You're gonna get some more creatures, yeah. I'm not over the moon about that, but what are you gonna do? Does mean they're not gonna be running something weird like a Settle the Wreckage, though. Okay. Question is, does he give something... Oh, it's so goddamn brutal. Okay, maybe we can get him to block weirdly. We do have an Infuse with Vitality. We might be able to pull this back out. See if they take a weird block on the Blightfang to try and kill it. If they do, we can use the Infuse with Vitality as a combat trick. Kind of annoying. It's really annoying. Fuck me, this shit is brutal. Yeah, they're getting card draw. The Dawn of Hope isn't great, but we aren't really in a position to deal with it. Yeah, that's good. Man, I want this deck to be good. And the deck can be good, but man, it's so fragile. That's like the worst part of it. Ritual of Soot, pretty good. Probably Necromentia, if I had to be honest. Heliod really gums up the works. Fang is so bad that it almost always gets cut. Maybe we go down 2 Fangs and 2 Thoughtseizes. We don't want to be hurting ourselves more than we're hurting the opponent. But that was a pretty good game of showing that the deck, like any combo deck, is... And we kind of talked about it also in the... Oh, fuck this. That's almost... Okay, my brain's scattered. Let me try that again. What we talked about earlier is that the deck is really, really fragile and needs some of your Deathtouch payoff cards. And if it doesn't have it... Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. We have to. It sucks, but we have to. We don't go any lower than 5. But if you don't have, like, a really good ideal opener, it just kind of doesn't work, you know? And that sucks. Like, I wish it did. And you can get some wins, but, like, anything above Platinum, the deck just really, really struggles. It's just so fragile. Oh, come on. Just let me decide to throw the hand back. What are you waiting on? I'm not going to keep this hot garbaggio. Oh, man. Killing me, game. Could you be a total bro and let me just... mulligan. Alright. I don't feel great about this. And I guess this is... Besides my original point of it being a fragile combo deck, with it, which it is, Soul Sisters, or Life Gain, or whatever you want to call it, as a deck is a really bad matchup for an opposing aggro deck, simply because they can pad their life total. And really, the adage of life gain isn't great is true in a vacuum. We literally have to keep it, unfortunately. Blightfangs, you're basically useless. But life gain is good in an opposing aggro mirror where you can afford to play a little more loose than others might. Oh, fuck this guy. If we don't draw a land, we almost immediately lose, right? But yeah, life gain is great in an opposing matchup within an aggro decks. It allows you to basically play much more aggressively and make plays and such you normally wouldn't. Alright. Sometimes you just lose to land flood. But I think this shows that's a really good example game where it shows that if you don't have one of your 2 combo pieces and you don't hit a 1-drop Deathtoucher into a Fynn, or at least a 1-drop into a 2-drop, really, the deck doesn't work. It's just like a funny, goofy aggro deck that tops out at the Platinum level, which this deck is. But we'll go on to game number 2 now. And game number 2 with our little Deathtouch aggro list. We are on the draw, which is nice. This is an okay hand. I mean, if nothing else, we can Fynn. We have Deathtouchers in green we can draw into, or we can hit a black slice and play a vampire and do a Fynn. So we'll see if this is a pretty good, or it has as much potential as I see in it. Let's see, blue-black pathway, blue on 1. Okay, not bad. Was it rogues maybe? But it's blue, so you couldn't do a... Why did you wait? What was it? Okay. They're playing blue and black. They're gonna have loads of removal. This hand is actually a good hand and, like, very good for what we're wanting to do. This does, however, hinge on the fact that Fynn survives. I'd be very surprised if he survives the next turn. If he does, we have the Infuse with Vitality. But shit like that happens all too often. Yeah. To be fair, I haven't seen Censor in weeks as a card played. So our opponent is playing some kind of blue-black control, more than likely. Honestly, if they have a Censor, they have it. We're not really gonna out-aggro a control deck in game 1. We're just not gonna. So now we're almost exclusively just on information gathering mode, if you will. Yeah, and they just pass, kind of do the same thing. We'll be a good little aggro player and cast stuff on our second main phase. Maybe they'll kill the vampire. Of course they won't, because they're, like, smart. We'll go ahead and Renegade, why not? It is of negligible import. Again, probably holding on to some other counterspell or black removal spell, but they are correctly realizing that you don't really bother with the peons, you bother with the big boys. Almost anything I do dies here. Yeah. Probably has a counterspell or removal spell. The question is which, not if. Yep. If we would have an Infuse with Vitality. Infuse with Vitality is a good protection card for your very fragile aggro combo deck. But it is still 2 mana. Your really cool card has to survive. It has to actually, like, make it. And if it doesn't, you're screwed. Like, pretty plain and simple, you're basically screwed. Keep this one playing a Toski. He can't be countered, but he can kill one of the creatures that will draw me cards. The only cards we're really going to bother to bring in, we're probably going to cut 2 Fangs for some Carnage Tyrants. Well, you're like a turn too late. Maybe they'll take a turn off. They won't, because again, they appear to have a brain in their skull. That is fucking brutal. But yeah. Either... Okay, so you have a removal spell. I guess when he destroys the Fynn, that is Revolt for the Renegade here. We also draw some cards, so we can get a land now. I said we're, like, kind of dead, but we're more alive than we should be by all accounts. I guess we'll go ahead and play the Knight itself and not the... What the hell is going on? I was talking mad shit a minute ago. I have to sneeze. Okay, sneeze was a false alarm. I can't believe we won that game. By all accounts, we should. I guess, yeah, I guess we just bring in Carnage Tyrant as a big thing that has hexproof and it can't be countered. Fangs are, as we talked about in the deck tech, the weakest of the Deathtouch creatures. So those are almost, and really the weakest card in the deck, honestly. And are almost always the first card to go. We're going to keep the Assassin's Trophy, even though they're a, what's the word? Even though they are a control deck. Because of their creature lands. Like their Hull of the Storm Giant. Yes, the thing has Ward, I know. But ideally, you kill it before it's a creature, so you don't have to worry about that. Of course, that's a whole lot of ifs and buts. You know, candies and nuts and all that jazz. Go ahead and keep this. Actually, not too terrible. I think we green on 1 for a Renegade, I think. Alright, a Temple. It's a tap land. It's an option. Oh my god, we've drawn the nuts! Again, it does sort of hinge on them having 0 interaction, which is unlikely. Halfway from their colors. We have to just see if they have it. They're either going to counter it or kill it. As they should. More sensors. But this is one of those. Fynn is great if we can connect, but he knows what we are now. So now we're not even trying to play around it. There's basically no practical point in doing so. So now we're just doing whatever we can with our limited resources. You probably take the Fountain. Really? I guess, okay, I guess the Renegade does sort of curve Phil a little bit. We'll keep the Bastion, I guess. Yeah, I guess we'll just Vampire here and just try and plank him down. Only has access to 2 blacks. Or 2 blues, sorry, and no black. Okay, so card draw, maybe a Brazen Borrower? Because it gave him priority when he only had 2 blue. There's a lot of blue. God, that's weird. Guess we can Foulmire Profane Insight, actually, on the Foulmire Knight. If they counter it, that's kind of fine. Okay, that's not exactly the black source I was looking for, but that'll do. I mean, honestly, I'm okay with that. I'd argue that's kind of a bad use of that. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's not bad, I guess, but like, yeah, I would not have done that. That's like a very weird play here. We're gonna just go ahead and draw cards. Okay, that's something. We can do some of that. I'd love to know the black source so I can like do stuff. Shark Typhoon. Okay, that's what you were. That's what your priority holding was. There you are again with more priority, which is not fantastic. Bearer of Secrets can't be countered and is indestructible. Run a Foulmire Knight. See what we can get. I could also have paid the 1 for that Censor, so honestly, cycling that away is pretty good. Opponent is making all the right plays. 100% all the right plays. Heartless Axe, that's fine. Makes sense. Maybe we got things to do next turn. I don't know, the black source would be kind of cooking. Or if I get it, my Carnage Tyrant, old Carny T, that'd be pretty goddamn good, honestly. Okay, they're in top deck mode a little bit. Question is, does he attack? He does attack. So he doesn't mind me getting a card. So look, we attack first, which is what you should do. You attack first and play your stuff on your second main. I'm just impatient. So a lot of times I'll just attack normally. Do you have another one? Turn target non-land to its hand, target player, make a copy. Cool. That's not that bad, actually. Yeah, that's actually like not that bad. Really, the Epiphany's card draw. Ugh, that's not good. Honestly, if I Boseiju now, that's kind of good, actually. He might activate it once in response and get 1 card out of it. I can weirdly infuse with Vitality here and buy myself, in theory, a turn. Okay. Couple cards. Honestly, that's kind of good. That's kind of good. So weird to Assassin's Trophy a token. But I don't think we're in a situation where we can afford to not. And now we're just, I guess we just run things out and hope it connects. If we hit another... Ah, fuck. Alright, that's game. Not even worth it. I have not seen a blue-black control list like this in a while. I mean, if I lose this game, I don't really mind as much. I don't mind losing against, like, cool brews I haven't seen in a while. And our opponent's deck is this. But I'm actually happy that that was, like, a pretty good showing for the deck. In this game, this whole, like, you know, game is going to be a relatively good showing for what the deck can do. And to show that you can squeeze out wins. I just think this deck does have a bit of a ceiling on, like, how high up the ranks it can go. Of course, If you're really committed, you know, you'll grind out enough of them. But otherwise, ugh. You know, actually, that's not that bad. We'll just Thoughtseize on 1, take away their problem stuff, Chevill on 2. It's not a fantastic hand, but it's, like, functional. Okay. I kinda don't give a shit if they... Yeah, it's weirdly the card draw I kinda care about. That was the wrong... I actually meant to hit Behold Multiverse, but that's... That actually sorta kinda pisses me off. But it'll be fine. I think we're actually kind of okay. And to be fair, that's probably the more annoying card. If I can land... Please destroy my shit. Please destroy my shit. So yeah, we Thoughtseize, see what they have now. I'm looking again to take away their card draw. Okay, that's fine. Like, push it. I don't really care. This isn't the most exciting game of Magic, to be entirely fair. There is a reject, though. That's a little weird. We'll go ahead and Foulmire if they choose to reject this. I mean, I wouldn't really blame them. Opponent does have Extinction Event. And that's kind of going to gum up the works a little bit. Maybe they'll Field of Ruin and I can, like, shuffle away something for another black source. It's non-basic, right? Yeah. I can Assassin's Trophy away their castle. That's great. We're actually... Oh, hang on. No. Submit. Get a black source. And then I Assassin's Trophy away their Castle Locthwain, getting rid of card draw. Okay, yeah, go ahead and consider in response. I actually stand by this play. This might seem like the dumbest shit on the planet, but we're in a weird moment where we're both just top decking, really, right now. I mean, the considered was just played, so. But we're kind of going 1-for-1 top decking right now. So if I can really gum up my opponent, I'm actually kind of okay with this. Weirdly. I didn't think I would be, but, like, we're in a better spot than I expected we'd be. This almost certainly forces the ritual. One of the Sweeper is in his hand. I'm hoping it forces the Extinction Event, because that could actually get rid of our Carnage Tyrant if we manage to get to that point. If they do nothing, which is also an option. Okay, they go for the ritual. Not. Oh, fuck. Alright, yeah, sometimes you make weird plays. Although, to be fair, I don't really have much in the way of options. We might lose. Especially if we don't draw any fucking lands. I'll give it one more game. Yeah, Memory Deluge is pretty fucking good. Okay, yeah, we've almost certainly lost now. Which is unfortunate. I actually felt like, for a second there... Yep, it's over. For a second there, we had it. But sometimes you lose to flooding, and that's just the reality. But the games showed enough of what the deck can do, and showed, more importantly, or at least equally as importantly, what it can't do. It's a very fun deck. If you have the cards already, go ahead and play it. But would I waste some of... Would I waste anything more, like a rare or a wild card, for anything in this deck? That's not land? No, I honestly probably wouldn't. If you have it, run it. And hey, if you have a better build than me, by all means share it. That's what comments are for. Just, you know, keep the criticism constructive so I can actually use that criticism to, like, make changes. Remember to like the video if you liked it, and sub if you like my content and would like to see more. Thank you all for watching, and have a great day out there.